I want you guys to be excited along with me here. I want you guys to be as hype as I am right now, because this key art, or I don't know if it's key art technically, but this new official artwork has me all sorts of excited. All right, here we go. So I want to dive into this and talk about it a little bit. I did do a little bit of note taking here, and I got some things that I think are interesting, and then some things that are just completely just off the wall. Speaking of walls, there's my new artwork right there, the new poster behind me. And then, of course, from Tyler Hepner over there on the Etsy shop. Amazing Final Fantasy VII. All right. This incredibly advanced ancient civilization in the sky is on full display in this artwork. This civilization ended 1,500 years ago, and Valisthea has been slowly dying ever since. So we can assume that the blight that is ravaging the lands is indeed connected to this ancient civilization from the sky. And this artwork, to me, confirms that. As if, I don't know if this is something everybody already kind of felt like they knew anyway, but I feel like this artwork confirms that, because you can see this layered swirl pattern on this gigantic structure. Here it is. This is actually inside of a ancient ruin, and what's interesting to note is that the enemies inside of this ruin have that layered swirl pattern making up the enemy itself. Are these enemies connected to the ancients? I'm going to call them the ancients, the Sky Civilization. We'll call them the Sky Civilization. Are they connected to the Sky Civilization? Are they citizens of the Sky Civilization turned to monsters because of the battle that waged 1,500 years ago? Did they lose? Were they cursed to live out their lives as monsters? Final Fantasy always kind of has to have that reason to have monsters in the world. The fact that Clive and Jill are sitting on this structure in their 30s, presumably. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's in his 30s. So this is it. Are we looking at in-game? Are we looking at an in-game level that we're going to go travel to? We're going to the sky. And it just has me excited, but we do know that Yoshi-P has indeed talked about this, how they were an advanced high-tech civilization once. And it was 1,500 years ago, according to the world's lore, and we even heard that in the trailer of I think it was Ambition or maybe Dominance, when that narrator said, Valisthea has been slowly dying ever since. So, I mean, they either lost the battle. I think did they challenge the gods and lose, and then were cursed to, and then cursing all of humanity and even this civilization. All right, so I also kind of want to note one glaring omission here, and I don't want to raise any alarms or anything, but I don't see Torgel. Okay. I don't see Torgel in this one, and the reason why I bring it up, because hey, Torgel's right here in the previous artwork, the second artwork. We do see Joshua holding Torgel. We see Clive. We see Jill, and then in this one, it's just Clive and Jill. So you kind of wanted to point that out, but we'll come back to that art in just a moment. So we've got Chocobos. We've seen Mugles. We know that Yoshi-P has expressed that he wanted to retain key elements of Final Fantasy. So with those things in mind, putting the pieces together of this being a high-tech civilization that is in the sky, can we assume that the airship is very, very possible? In fact, and bear with me because I'm going to go a little off the rails here. It might go a little too far. What if they are sitting on an airship? What if that's what they're sitting on right now? The other structures in the background of this art do not appear to have the limbs that are branching out of this gigantic structure. They don't seem to have the limbs branching out. They just seem to be kind of bladed floating cities. But this one, they look like wings to me in a way. In a way, they kind of look like wings, right? that it could be an airship, and I've seen like maybe Final Fantasy 12. It kind of makes me feel like Final Fantasy 12, those gigantic airships, maybe the Alexander airship that was more vertical, even though it did have had a little more girth to it, if you know what I'm saying. It had some girth, but it was a vertical airship, and it kind of looked like this in my mind right now. What if 1500 years ago there was a sky civilization, and then there was maybe a land civilization? And the reason why I point this out is that these like cube block looking shapes is what throws me off, right? So we know that it's all about that swirl, it's all about that stone looking swirl, high tech looking thing, and then you have these. Then you have these cube blocks looking shapes that you don't see anywhere else when it comes to the sky civilization. You don't see that. This looks different. This like stands out to me a lot, but it does bring back memories of this art. As you can see, the blocks in the cube shaped, especially over here where it's like more, more stone masonry and stuff like that, but it resembles this. So that kind of had me thinking, what if there was a land civilization that maybe that's what the war was? Maybe they were at war with them. But yeah, it's kind of where I was with that, and maybe they uncover an airship from one of those ruins. This is interesting because we're going to be looking at all the arts. This is interesting. Have we determined what that blue streak going across the sky is? Has anybody kind of like paid attention to that? This blue streak that goes across the sky. And up here in the top right, is that an airship? I'm just thinking we get airships. It doesn't really look like it could be an airship, but we don't know what airships look like in Final Fantasy 16's world. But yeah, I mean, like there's clearly a blue streak going through, and then also these clouds are kind of spiking. They're like little cirrus clouds among some cumulus clouds, if you will. And so you can also see the blue streaks going within them as well. It could be some just paint brush strokes and stuff, but yeah, a little bit of some streaks going there. So we got maybe 2 airships, and then a third one. So for Clive, his arm seems to be like burning, and this is something that we saw on the very first key art, which we'll come to in a second. But his arm seems to be burning, and we know that the dominants are inflicted with this kind of curse type thing, where the more they use the icon, the more they turn to stone. So is Clive going to? It's like, is his different? Does he burn and melt every time he uses it? It's almost as if his arm is like oozing with like red hot liquid, like a lava or molten. It's just like molten blood. It's oozing with red rather than turning to stone. And it almost seems like it's kind of seeping through and burning through his skin and his armor. And then if you go over here to this one, it's definitely prominent. Of course, this is the arm that he also uses this for his powers and stuff. But look, his hand is just straight up on fire. That's of course his power, but look at his other arm. It's like this ooze. It's got this, and especially on his glove, and it's almost dripping down the sword, like this red hot blood just dripping down the sword, and then it's almost about to drip off of there. So that's kind of interesting, where it seems like in this one, in this key art, that's what it's showing as well, is like maybe he doesn't turn to stone. Jill is continuing to be one of the most interesting and just badass characters in the entire game. Like for me, every time I see her, she's awesome. And this artwork proves it again. It shows it again. She's just so cool. But I have to like further dive in. I gotta further dive in here, and I gotta go with if I want to make something out of nothing, right? Or maybe I'm making a good point. Maybe, who knows? I gotta make content somehow. Her back is facing away from Clive, and I think if that's a otherwise being a really cool pose, if her back is facing away from Clive, I feel like maybe they'll have some differences on how to go about getting revenge, right? Maybe they both are out for revenge, so that parallels nicely. They are certainly the epicenter of this theme or the story going throughout Final Fantasy 16. But will they be kind of at odds with how they want to go about doing things? And the fact that she's facing away from Clive gives me that, a lot of the time when it comes to art, man, it's about telling the story through art. And then of course sometimes it's just about looking cool, and it definitely looks cool. But yeah, so with her facing away from it, I really think she might have a different view on how to go about getting that revenge, and her view might be a little more aggressive. It might actually be the fact that, like, hey, you can't just go around killing everybody. But I gotta say, she doesn't seem to have a problem with killing when it comes to these trailers. So yeah, I think the most exciting thing about this artwork is that, I mean, just when you think that Final Fantasy 16, like, you think you know it, you think you're like, okay, so it's a medieval, around medieval style Final Fantasy. We're going back to high fantasy. We're going back to that, like it's a drama, the courtroom drama, the freaking, you got your politics and stuff like that. War, cool. Kingdoms, yes. And then they throw this artwork at you, and you're like, that's right. This is a Final Fantasy game. We're going to the sky. We're going high in the sky, Like, this sky civilization could be able to be afloat because of it houses a crystal. Maybe it houses a mother crystal. Maybe they used to house the mother crystals, and when that war that happened 1,500 years ago, everything just, you see the ruins scattered across the land, and then you see those mother crystals look like they're studding the land, like they fell from the sky. Which is so crazy to think that something so massive could have been floating in the sky. But like, here we are looking at this crazy bladed like structures, vertical cities floating above the sky. So yeah, it's so exciting, man. This artwork really has me so pumped for Final Fantasy 16. And I wanted to share that with you guys. I have one more thing to say about Final Fantasy 16's original, like the first artwork that we've been staring at for like, God, two years now, several years now. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it since we've been looking at it for so long. But I thought some cool things here to point out. I did look into the sky and see if there's anything up there. Not seeing anything, but this tower in the background, the Crystalline Dominion, I mean, this is a reference to the Babylon, the Tower of Babel, and I kind of want to dive into that one day in a separate video, but this is a reference to that, in my opinion, reaching towards the heavens here, and the heavens being this gigantic mother crystal, and it's trying to reach as tall as that, and I think they're getting too close. You know what I mean? And then we go back down a little bit further, and then you got the Crystalline Dominion here. You have Clive walking on this water here. This is water. Clive walking on water, which is another reference. But this being the whirlpool that is located off the shores of the Crystalline Dominion and the Dhalmekian Republic, like in between those two. And I mean, it's probably just, the brushstrokes, probably the ripples in the water, but that looks a whole lot like the ancients that we've been talking about, the sky civilization. Looks like the pattern, that swirl pattern that we've been seeing, but it looks like it's like a subtle hint that whirlpool is something important, in my opinion. I just think that maybe that whirlpool between the two is housing maybe something of ancient descent. Perhaps we get like a Final Fantasy X type thing where the Fahrenheit comes out, and maybe the whirlpool, when Barnabas is seen splitting the water, maybe he's unveiling or just opening up the gate to the airship that was residing in there, and you can get on the airship and go up. But yeah, so just wanted to say thank you guys for a great 2022, and let's make 2023 freaking awesome.